Welcome to the On Air Book Club. My name is Titi Oyinsan, and we're going to be talking books and the messages we find within those pages. It's a pleasure to be here with you once again as we go live. We're going to be live on Instagram, live on YouTube, live on LinkedIn, live on Spotify, iHeartRadio, and Apple Podcasts. And I have to appreciate each and every one of you for tuning in as you do. Whenever you tune in, it's heartwarming because we begin to realize how much people they crave what they can learn. They crave learning from what's within the pages of a book. And on this episode, we're going to deep dive into a really interesting topic. We're going to be joined by Jesupelumi Adenihun. Now, she's the author of Eat to Wealth. It's a compelling guide on healthy nutrition. Now, yes, we've heard it all before. We've heard all the tricks and tips from many different speakers. But once they put it within the pages of a book, it is set in stone, and you need that guide sometimes. And this is a compelling guide on healthy nutrition, intelligent eating, and of course, overall well-being. Now, with experience in nutrition, clinical practice, health management, health technology, and health policy leadership, Jesupelumi is a rising beacon for healthcare development. She co-founded CHEKKER. It's a health technology company increasing access to speedy and quality diagnostic services. It's now operational in 3 states in Nigeria, and since inception has earned recognition as one of the top 25 innovators in the country by Nigeria's Sovereign Investment Authority, that's the NSIA. And she's also secured a place among the top 5 innovators at the AXA Innovation Challenge. Beyond her work at CHEKKER, Dr. Jesupelumi is a devoted advocate for good health and healthy living. She is a certified coach at the esteemed Precision Nutrition Company, which is a globally recognized body in the field of nutrition. And here she serves as a dedicated nutrition coach, providing invaluable guidance to her patients and clients. Now, apart from this, she instructs, she guides, she manages corporate entities on harnessing the power of food to optimize their health and general well-being. Please help me welcome Dr. Jesupelumi Adenihun. I got it right, I hope. I did.
Absolutely, you did. Hi, Tilayo.
Good evening, Doc. Dr. J, right?
Yes, you got that right.
So you're the author of this package. This book is not just a book; it's a package. It's packed full of nutritional knowledge here, and you decided to put together this guide. You need to tell us why exactly you decided to, first of all, title it this way: "Eat to Wealth." An intriguing title, but then also what inspired you to write?
All right. Thank you so much, Titilayo. I must commend the amazing work that you're doing, right? Just helping people embrace the knowledge that we have in the pages of our book. And yes, I'll say very well done to you and your team. So I'll go to the title of the book, right? It's to Wealth. And I mean, we're all familiar with the saying that goes, health is wealth. So most times when we think of wealth, most people are quick to just attribute it to financial wealth or material wealth. And we just forget that bit that health is actually the foundational of the wealth that whatever kind of wealth it is that we can possess. So yes, so I just, that came, it's to wealth, and it's a continuous journey, not just something that happens at a one-time thing or as a one-time thing. So it's a journey. So just eat into that perfect state of health, which is also our wealth. Yes. And
so that's leveraging so it's a play on words with that term of health. So you're exactly towards that wealth, not even only towards your health. All right. So because health is okay, we get it, we do. But it's you've obviously got a very interesting background, nutritional background. You have a comprehensive guide here. It also has a 21-day meal plan. A lot of people have tried meal plans before. People have tried different diets before. They try different strategies,
Right.
and like, another one.
Right.
Uh, but you are a doctor, so when there are doctor's orders behind it, it gives it a stronger foundation.
I agree.
Talk about this guide and how you put it together, how it is structured.
Mhm, mhm. All right. So, I mean, by the time you pick the book, right, you see that it's not just about the meal plan. So, first off, there's an information, right? You're being educated on what eating really is. So, there's a quote at the beginning, right? And, just talks about how we all eat, but not everyone eats intelligently. It's literally like we're taught different things. We're taught how to cook, we're taught how to, maybe be excellent in our professions, but when it comes to eating, which actually affects the foundation of who we are, we don't exactly maybe fully know what's best for us to do per time. So if you go through the book, you see that there's already been foundational blocks that have been laid, right? When it comes to what we should be eating, the categories of food that are available for you to select from, the ways in which you can actually combine them or even get something that is a balanced meal for your own person and even for the stage at where you are. Because when it comes to eating, right, as much as we know we are all individuals, that's how it also varies when it comes to what you should be eating for the current phase of life that you're in. So those are like the things that when before that meal plan was actually put together. And when we talk about meal plans, so meal plans serve as guides. They're nothing to put you in a box, right? Once you understand the foundation or you understand the principles behind which those meal plans have been created, then you are able to better, make the maximum use of them. So whether it's for a goal that you want to achieve or just for you to eat healthy sustainably, you're able to do that. So all of that has gone into, creating that meal plan and building that
Mm,
foundation to say, okay, so what are the things that are required in your daily meal, right? What are the things you should know when you're even trying to prepare, a meal plan for your own self, right? You can always tweak it. So if you provide you with a
mm,
meal plan, you say, okay, this is cast in stone, like you have to hook, line, and sinker. But also telling you that when you don't have this, these are also alternatives that you can use,
okay.
right? So that way it's also more realistic to use. Yeah.
So it is kind of more realistic when you have, a this or that, or
Mm,
that or this,
right.
this in the morning, that in the evening kind of structure.
Mm,
Um,
absolutely.
but then, in terms of the structure for your book, you decided to have healthy snack options as well.
Yes.
So some people think of snacks as cheating, um, cheating out of a diet. Trying to go in between meals, and
Mhm,
we've heard so many different strategies.
mhm,
Some are bottled, some are liquefied, some are just fruit.
mhm,
Um, Talk to us about how you decided to structure this meal plan, because you've set this in stone. This is the structure in your book, meaning
mhm,
that you're assuming that anyone, a man, a woman, no matter what age,
mhm,
what social status,
mhm,
financial status they are, they should be able to eat healthy. Talk to
mhm.
us about.
Okay. So now when it comes to snacks, right, I mentioned that the essence of all of this is also to, achieve things that are realistic, right? So for some people, there's already that habit, right, of snacking. So if you want to get someone from the point where they're at and then get them to that state of saying, okay, this is the goal I want you to achieve, you need to be able to work with what they're already used to, tweak it, and then help them become better with those practices, right? So for the average person, right, some people like they just enjoy snacks, and then when you ask them what they're snacking on, what they would pick is maybe I don't want, I'm not mentioning brand names now, right? But they just generally generally
Yeah.
pick on songs. So
Mm,
instead of doing that, right? So there are also alternatives that you
mm,
can pick up on. So for example, it could be the dried fruits. I'm just giving an example right from the book there, the list of them in the book that you can pick out from. And then when
mm,
you have that, you're taking something that is not only serving as a filler for that time, but it's also adding nutrients to you as a person.
mm,
And when it comes to food, so something I like to tell everyone now is think of food as an investment. right? Just the same way people are subscribed to your channel and they're gaining knowledge, right? Gaining knowledge about books, about things that are on the pages of people's books, right? That's the same way food is something that is added to you. So every meal, whether it's a snack or whether it's a main meal that you're having, should be seen as an investment into your own personal self or your future self, right? And that's where the whole picture comes again as, eating to wealth, right? So the wealthier version of you, right, is choosing healthier options every time.
There's a little formula you have here. Now, this
So,
formula is eating to
mhm,
process to outcome. This is under your first block here. The
mhm,
first, which is eating. You
mhm,
sort of describe, you break down what eating actually is.
mhm,
Eating
mhm.
process to outcome. You say eating is an action that initiates a process to
Yeah.
provide an outcome. Um,
Mhm,
shows that every time food is eaten, different processes are being initiated, resulting in compounding outcomes that
mhm,
either turn out to be beneficial or
mhm,
harmful.
mhm,
Now,
mhm.
nobody wants to hear that eating their favorite meal is harm. Sadly, it does feel like based on our cultural backgrounds, a lot
Mhm,
of our eating habits have
mhm,
become harmful. Could you
mhm.
touch on that and maybe use some examples with maybe some clients that you've worked with before?
Okay then. Okay. So like we're again, like I mentioned, the whole aim of telling or encouraging people to eat healthy doesn't mean you have to you know live a boring lifestyle. Because I know that's one thing people usually have at the fore of their minds when we say eat healthy, then they immediately think, oh, I'm about to go on a boring healthy journey. But that's
Mm.
not the case. So again, the case is what can you improve, right, with what it is that you already eat. So, for example, right, I'll give an example. I'm from Ocean State, right? I'm a Yoruba girl, and
Okay.
then you see that largely. So sometimes maybe when you go to those restaurants or when it's a party or maybe even for some people, right? Maybe that may still be the pattern of cooking at home. And then when the soup is done, right? There's something that floats on top, right? So like
Oh, yeah. Okay.
you can attest to that, right?
Yeah.
So if it's not floating, I'm not mentioning the name, but I'm sure you already understand. But just if that red substance is not floating at the top, right? If it's not, maybe like a spoonful over
Yeah.
the
It's
soup
not.
is exactly.
It's not.
And
It's not sweet.
And so while that underlies, right, maybe the cultural soups that we have, it doesn't mean we can't have those foods, right? We can still have them. But do you really require that amount of, red oil in your meal? Is that really necessary? Can you reduce that and then just make do with what is actually required for that meal? Because then thinking, like I said, every meal is initiating a process. And when it's done repeatedly and consistently over time, then you start to see outcomes that may be favorable depending on what kind of meals you've been having, or may be unfavorable for your health. So if you're doing that on a repeated pattern, right? Just imagine having scoops of that amount of oil regularly, and then it just happens that one day, hopefully, you go for health checks, right? Hopefully, and one day you go for the health check and you find that your cholesterol levels are really high, right? That didn't happen overnight. Nothing really happens with health overnight, right? That was just being built up over time by the action that you've been initiating with the kind of food that you've been eating. Yeah, so that's where that comes in.
So culture, in the way we teach our
Yeah.
young people to cook presently.
Mhm.
So it was a battle for me,
Mm,
in terms of even teaching my own kids
I can imagine.
to cook. So
Mhm,
I've those that know me quite well, they know
mhm,
that my kids have started cooking. I
excellent.
often put up photos, videos of them in the kitchen.
Mhm,
Uh,
mhm,
and one of them is fond of jollof rice,
mhm,
jollof spaghetti, and she wants to fry down the plantain.
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and I brought in an air fryer,
Excellent.
There are a lot of theories around the air fryer, whether it's healthy or not. I don't know. But I brought it in because, first of all, I realized that it was less oil
Yes.
being
Mhm.
used to cook.
Mhm.
But getting them to eat air fried plantain was it was hard.
I
It was,
can
yeah.
imagine.
Oh, um,
Mhm.
so it is a battle, an internal battle, and I feel like if you are going to change something, you have to change it from the ground up.
Excellent.
Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
from the kids need to hear the
Mhm.
issues, to understand
Mhm.
issues.
Mhm.
Have here on page 11 and 12, you see a typical example is the southwestern part of Nigeria, often known to have large amounts of pepper or palm oil in their meals.
Mhm.
Intrinsically, there is nothing wrong with taking these pepper or palm
Mhm.
oil. Issues
Mhm.
arise when they are eaten in large amounts, which pose a risk
Mhm.
for stomach ulcers or increased cholesterol levels,
Mhm.
predisposing them to heart related issues. In this case, the eating behavior around these foods can then be adjusted or significantly reduced. And that is just one example that
Mhm.
you've given here. You give an infographic here on this page as well. Let's see if I can show that. I read it aloud for the benefit of those listening via Spotify, iHeartRadio,
Mhm.
or podcast, so they could hear what I was reading. But it says here, work is man's gift. The industrial revolutions that have taken place across centuries have revealed man's innate abilities to create for himself a continuing better world, from heavy
Mhm.
duty machines to small sized devices capable of doing so much, and now robots. There's no end to these innovations. And it's imperative that we create and innovate and adapt. Meaning, essentially, okay, if you look at you talk about here mechanization,
Mhm.
steam weaving loom, then the industrial revolution. The second one was mass production assembly line, electrical energy. Then the
Mhm.
third was automation, computers and electronics. And now the fourth industrial revolution is cyber physical systems, Internet of Things, networks, and of course now AI.
Right. Right.
AI.
Right.
I saw a video on social media
Mhm.
recently discussing, well, showcasing a robot that actually makes meals.
You
So
see? Can you imagine?
makes meals. Now, this was on one of those Shark Tank competitions. So this is an innovator who has an idea and he's asking for millions of dollars to push this idea forward. And he
Mhm.
has essentially what is could be considered a vending machine style um,
Mhm.
tabletop surface
Mhm.
where the robot literally takes the pre-prepped cleaned ingredients, puts them in
Mhm.
the pan and cooks.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm
Mhm.
thinking somewhere down the line,
Mhm.
obviously, if these machines go into every restaurant, into every
Mhm.
home possibly,
Mhm.
uh,
Mhm.
there will be some laws or things put in place saying that these machines are not allowed to use more than a certain amount of oil, more than a
Exactly.
certain amount of salt, more
Right.
than a certain amount of sugar for
Yeah.
certain recipes. It'll probably
Mhm.
be a law eventually at
Mhm.
some to add anything that is carcinogenic or that
Mhm.
would affect people's cholesterol levels.
Mhm.
So books
Mhm.
like yours are highlighting very important issues.
Mhm.
Um, Also, just being aware of the fact that these issues exist is very, very important. So let me
Absolutely.
let me stop talking now. Let me throw it back to you. You
Okay.
talked about sedentary lifestyle
Hmm.
in your book. So now let's talk about this issue of sedentary lifestyle and how physical activity actually affects our eating habits and our lifestyle. Talk to
Okay.
us.
All right, Titi. So I'm even going to we're having a conversation, right? And
Hmm.
I was gonna say to you that if you think back to maybe let's say 2, 3 years ago, and then just think of how maybe active you were in terms of the kind of work you were doing, and then how active you are now. Except you're putting some deliberate, effort to it, you find out that more often than not, you're spending more time on the chair right, than you're actually moving around. So there's this common saying right now that sitting is the new smoking. So we
Wow.
find that the effect that we're having with people that smoke over a particular period of time is now similar to the effect that you're having as you're sitting for prolonged periods. So
Wow.
now, I mean, with the advent of, you just talked about the machines, right? So that's
Wow.
less work for us. Like, we just sit down, the
Yes.
machine makes something and then
Mhm.
brings it to us and hands it over. So we're doing less moving around. Our workstations are in front of screens, in front of laptops. So we actually need to, be deliberate. But I'll come to that. So now, when you think about, the sedentary activity and then talking about food. So we eat, right? Aside eating for, social activities, like when we come together and we're celebrating something or we're just happy, and right, there'll be food. We're also eating for nourishment. We're eating for energy, right? We're eating to be able to carry out our day-to-day activity. So now the question now is, with what we're eating, are we burning enough, right? Just by sitting at the desk, right? So do I say that, okay, I have my meals, I have my meals, maybe probably have my meals in front of my screen and I'm not even moving around, because the exercise, beyond exercise, even aiding your bowel activity or aiding your bowel movement to break down meals, it also releases, happy hormones. It releases different enzymes like in your system just to ensure that you're functioning optimally as an individual. But if we have less of that, and then the food is building up. So sometimes you find people complaining of things like, oh, uh, maybe I'm having, my food is not digesting well, or I'm eating like I'm having heart stools. Like, those are actually effects of reduced physical activity. And when those things are building up, it's more like it's causing some form of inflammation. Inflammation, let me say in nature, is like injury, right, to different part of the system, and it can then start to build up things that are not healthy for you as an individual. So with eating, right, physical activity, they go hand in hand. So you eat, move around. So I know I've had to, like, make conscious effort to say, okay, every hour, right, I'm standing up to do something, whether standing up to stretch or standing up to, maybe take a 1 minute walk, even if it's in the office. We actually have to be aware of these things so
Mm.
that we know that in another 5, 10 years, we're not putting ourselves at risk of saying that, okay, I'm coming down with, a heart condition that I've actually prevented with habits, emphasis
Yep.
on the habits that I've built over time. Yeah, so just
I'm page on.
this.
I'm not sure if you see it presently. Can you see the page I have on screen? And you have some questions here from very
Yeah,
important questions. I believe you have questions at the end of every block, or is it every chapter? Which,
yes, yes.
are there unhealthy cultural patterns you've observed around your meal consumption? If yes, what is it you can do to change that? What eating habits have you developed around work? What can you do to improve on it? And are there things you think you need to start eating less of or more of based on your current phase of life? Interesting. And if you are able to answer these questions truthfully to yourself, I believe
Right.
you are well on the way to
Mhm,
having healthier lifestyle, and you're well on your way to eating to wealth.
mhm, as rightly put it. Yeah.
So I'm going to come back to the structuring of your book in a bit. You provided some tips for managing cravings.
Mhm.
People have cravings. So
I have cravings.
let me share I know my sisters are listening or watching right now. There's something I buy a lot of, and that's like gummy bears. Gummy bears. I don't know. Like, if I see it anywhere, I'll use my last change to buy it. My last change.
Ah.
I just and it's not like it's filling me up. It's
Mm,
not filling me. It's not hunger.
mhm,
It's just it's gummy, it's chewy, it's sweet,
mhm,
and I feel like
mhm,
yes, the manufacturers of these products have made it addictive,
mm.
put
Yeah,
ingredients in
coming
it that
back.
are
Mhm.
addictive. It's all sorts of colors. It's purple, it's pink, it's red. I don't care what color it is. I didn't even tell you what flavor it was. I just far as I can
Right.
buy it and just chew on it. I'm
Mhm,
buying. But how do people deal with cravings for, you
Mm,
know, cravings like that? This is, yes, they have the means, they have the money to buy these things.
mm,
Um, they have access to the
mhm.
pizza parlor just at the junction. You
Right.
know, there's a meat pie place right outside your office. There's a
Right.
woman egg roll on her head every morning and
Mhm.
what and greeting you with a smile. Dashing you one extra, like, oh, guy, you don't do me well. Yeah, take one more.
I get another one.
So, how do people deal with this, Doc? It's a big issue.
Mhm.
It,
Yeah, it is. I agree because so I've had to deal with it myself. But that's where knowledge comes in and awareness, and also for me as as a coach, I think there are different layers to this, right? So it just happens that for some people, you actually need to understand what is bringing about that craving. So as a person, for me now, I know when I have cravings, right? I know what period of time I get particular cravings, and what I've been able to do is then to switch it up, and that's like I said, when knowledge comes in. So Titilayo, that you shouldn't be having gum bears
I
every time,
know
right?
my kids
So
even know. My kids are always looking at me where we see you.
so there you start to think. So that's bringing the awareness part. So are you getting the gummy bears just because you can get them? Are you getting the gummy bears just when you think you feel tired? Are you getting the gummy bears maybe when something has happened at work and you're trying to just relax with food? Because truth be told, many of us we compensate ourselves either with food or we make ourselves happy with the kind of things that we eat. So you identify what is causing that craving, and then
Mm,
when you start to do that, because all of this actually they're behavioral, and you're on the food and psychology page, so there's psychology to it. So sometimes when we're coaching people, right, we tell them, okay, so if there's a particular thing that you crave a lot, right, instead of having it, so the next time you crave it, instead of doing the easier version of saying, oh, I'm gonna pick up my phone and order it, maybe take a walk to go and get it. By the time you're taking that walk, you see that when you're putting in more effort, you're putting in more effort to actually go and get that thing, right?
mm,
It just begins to reduce the craving. So, like I said, there are different things, right, for different people. So that's where being individualistic with each person also comes with eating, right? For some, it may be their happy moments. So if it's just a one of happy moments, okay, you can have it. But if it's that you're having it constantly, then you start to think, oh, what else can I have actually in place of this thing? And the bottom one, if you don't want to eat it, don't have it around you, right? Like, yeah. So
there's online order service now. I can put it online. I can't lie to you. I there's an online supermarket that I'll probably have to interview one of them one of these days.
okay.
They used to have this endless supply of gummy sweets, and then one day I got to the snacks part of their online store and I didn't see any. I called customer service. I said, "What was your what are you ordering?"
Not
I
this serious.
called customer service like, "You guys don't have what's happening?" You're probably wondering, this is not an emergency. This is not someone that needs eggs. This is not
Right?
someone that
Go in
needs
there.
like this woman. Are you serious? And then I thought about myself. I was like, okay, this is embarrassing. I'm going to cut the phone.
Mm,
I thanked them for their service, and then
mm,
it stopped me from buying for a while because
mhm,
I didn't go to any supermarkets, physical
mhm,
supermarket.
mhm.
So yes, as you said, it is about having it around you, having
Yeah,
access to. So
yeah,
you're saying put some things in place to
mhm,
prevent you
yeah.
having access to these
And
things. Yeah.
then just to even add to that, so you'd notice that when you have meals that are, really all, like all in the sense that you've had a proper meal, say you've
Mm,
had your let me use a local food now. So for example, if you've had amala, right,
mm,
and you've had vegetable, you've had your protein, whichever one it is, maybe your fish, right? And you've had something really good, you're full, right? You you likely would not be quick to have a craving for, a gummy bear when you've had
mm.
something that is, that
If I've
rich.
had a substantial meal, that's
That
what you mean.
yes. So something that is well balanced, right? Well balanced in the sense that you have your vegetables there, you have your carbohydrate, you have your protein, right?
Mm,
And you're eating something that has good fiber in it
mm.
as well. The time lapse between I'm laughing already at this at the comments. The
Okay, you see in the comments already.
time
Uh,
lapse
yeah,
having
so
that.
in comments, someone says seriously. Oh, okay, that's you. No, that's a you're someone with your surname. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
Um,
mom. Yeah,
thank you
so
for all your
she's not
comments
even
coming
a fan as
through.
well, obviously, like you, Titi, because see she comment.
Gummy bears. I'm telling you. I honestly, information is a very major thing people don't talk about. Oluwapelumi Shitu says here, we have Balumi Shitu also talking about cravings like she's pregnant, and that's true. It is actually quite weird because you wouldn't actually think that this is a big deal until you put it out there.
Yeah, yeah.
Like seriously, doctor, you need to give us this. Okay, so you mentioned having a proper meal already.
Mm-hmm,
You mentioned that.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of people in Nigeria bulk buy their meals now
Yeah, yeah.
because we need to be as strategic financially
Mm-hmm,
as
yeah, I
possible.
agree. Yeah, yeah.
So you highlighted the importance of consistent meal timing and bulk cooking.
Mm-hmm.
Can you sort of give us some insight into some sustainable strategies that we can
Okay,
use in
all
our
right.
homes?
Okay, so I'll pick on the bulk cooking, right? Because I mean, so that's what helps people sort of maybe say you put some structure to how you are feeding, right? Or even to help you eat less of junks or less of healthier meals. So when you're doing the bulk buying, the whole idea is for you to, maybe have, for example, you can have things that are in season and then see how you can make the most of them. So when you bulk buy, you're reducing the cost, the financial cost. You're also reducing, I see time as a cost because I mean time is very valuable. Time is precious.
Mm,
So
mm,
even the time in preparing those meals. But then again, we keep learning and we actually have to keep learning and keep getting information because even though we say you bulk buy and then you bulk prepare your meals, there's still another aspect of saying even though we've asked you to prepare your meals in bulk, it's not that every time you want to prepare that meal, you're bringing out that bowl of soup, you thaw it out, you put it back in every single time. There's a tendency for you to lose out. I mean, you lose the nutrients in those meals, and then it can even get contaminated quickly. So there's now the idea of saying, okay, you're packing them in maybe bowls, right? And then just portioning it already. So it's easier for you to pick out a bowl and say, oh, this is what I'm using for this period. So there also, things that happens when it comes into bulk buying. Like you're bulk buying, you're not overcooking the meals. And they say, oh, I've bought this one in bulk. So that's the end. So there's still some level of intelligence. And those are things that, maybe a nutritionist or even a coach can, put you through. Yeah.
We have quite a few comments coming through here. Derachi official says here, this is more than a handful of relevant information. Thank you, Dr. Adenihun.
Thank
Uh,
you, Sarah.
Adenihun. Oh, gosh.
No, you tried, you tried. Just
Yeah,
remember, Remy.
Amy,
You will, yes.
but this meal plan strategy now,
Mhm,
um, there's this issue of monotony, though.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
Monotonous feeling of always just having to eat the same
mhm,
thing
mhm,
over and over and over. And you're
mhm,
wondering, okay, uh,
mhm,
here we go again.
mhm.
You have to think about costs. How expensive it's assumed healthy eating is. Can we touch on that? Can we touch it?
So you remember at the beginning of the book, right? I said something that the meal plan was built on foundations or bricks just so that you understand the principle behind drawing up a meal plan. So this was drawn up as a guide even for you as a person, right? You can't sit down and then draw up a meal plan once you understand every other information that has been put there from the beginning. So just see it as a journey, like layers upon layers upon layers. So
Mm,
now the meal plan in the book, I clearly remember I remember that something I
Sorry, the
meant.
comment made me laugh. Sorry.
I
Okay.
know it's really hilarious. I love cakes. I'll give that to you, Titi.
Okay.
So
All right.
you'd see that I mentioned that a meal plan is not to put you in a box. It serves as a guide. Because one thing I also find with us, even with me, when something starts to get monotonous or starts to be too repetitive, it can become boring. So that's
Mm,
why you now have the knowledge to say that, okay, so if my, building block is to say that I have something that is, full of fiber, what are other fiber options that I can have? And that's why you have the food catalog. So in the food catalog, you're seeing meals that belong to each class. And you can say, okay, instead of doing this, so I started to tell people, instead of doing rice, you can do quinoa. Instead of even doing quinoa, if you don't want to do quinoa, you can do fonio. I know most of us don't know fonio, but fonio is actually a Nigerian meal. Like we grow it locally, right? And you can make jollof rice, like you can whip it into here
Is it,
because it's also
is it,
called
is it
rice.
affordable though? Is it affordable and readily accessible? That's the question now.
So
Uh,
okay, go ahead.
we know that rice is everywhere.
Mhm.
I actually think of rice as a lazy man's food. You know, just add water and salt and it's done.
Mhm.
And I've always, so I've actually done something called the rice boycott. I did
Mm.
this while I was on radio, and I just had my twin girls, our twin
Mhm.
girls,
Mhm.
and I needed to really lose weight.
Mhm.
And I did a rice boycott. I did 100 days, and on Facebook every day, I would
Wow.
update people
Mm.
about how my journey was going, and
Mhm.
use people on Facebook to hold myself accountable.
Mm. Mhm.
But rice is always accessible. It's right
Mhm.
there.
I agree.
Is
I agree.
quinoa accessible? Are these other
Mhm.
blocks
Mhm.
accessible? Talk to
Mhm.
us about how to source them.
Okay, so when we're thinking food, right, there's a spectrum, and as much as would love to say eat healthy, and of course, I mean there'll be a summit soon just to see how well we can really address these things, even from the sector of growing these foods, right, and then making them accessible. Because when it comes to eating healthy, that's one thing. Aside the affordability, it also has to be accessible and readily available when it's required, right? So increasingly now, right, the people that are, ensuring that these things are actually accessible. But if you're not even aware of the kind of food, right, you won't even know to look out for it. So just like we've had this conversation now, and then people hear, and then they're hearing about it that, oh, okay, so there are actually options that I can try out aside rice. So you just, one thing about the mind as well, what you become aware of, or what you start to know, or what you start to hear, you also just become conscious of it, and then the information starts to come within your sphere. But yes, I see certain industries, or let me say certain companies or organizations that are making these foods readily available, so just to ensure that more people are having access to that, and so that we don't always say that, oh, it's only rice,
Mm,
really. We have different types of rice: jollof rice, coconut rice,
mm.
curry rice, different
They're
kinds of
different.
rice.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the different things that we can still, eat and enjoy, that are even grown locally. So yes, there'll be more information on that. But maybe to just look out for when that
A
summit
lot
is
of
happening.
There's a lot of information on the different classes and classifications of food here. You talk about grains, you talk about protein. You mentioned grains earlier on: rice, wheat, oats,
Mhm.
millet, corn, rye, beluga, quinoa, and
One.
sorghum. Um,
Mhm.
so I think it's all about being intentional at this point. That's the only term I can think of: intentional, and actually going out to search for these foods. Adebayo here says, "Now I'm now intentional about what I eat, so I can find them." Thank you, Dr. JP.
Thank you,
Um,
sir.
Bumi says here, "Me, I love cakes, cream, and but I'm grossly reduced going for such now, and occasionally, all thanks to Dr. JPM. Information is key. I'm learning a lot. Thank you, Dr. JP. Then I've read some of the other messages already.
Mhm.
Uh, Dr. Jesupelumi. Okay, yes, they're hailing you here. They're hailing you here. All right. Thank you
Perfect.
so much for all the comments. I wish we could continue this conversation, but you won't believe it's almost 40 minutes gone on this
Wow. Wow.
talk. But I wanted to, say that
Mhm,
there's so much that people still don't know. And sadly, they say if you want to hide something,
mhm.
hide it within the pages
Pages
of
of
the
a book. No, it's changing.
things
I
are
mean,
changing now,
it's
right?
changing. Right? Yeah.
We're going to wrap up soon. But what is the big question? You have a block here, block 6, that says the big question. What is this big question? It
Mhm,
says here the preceding chapter shows tips on using a meal plan while eating every day,
mhm.
going to work, skipping meals sometimes, or just feeding off leftovers. There still lies an important question to ask. What can I do to make this meal better?
Yeah,
Or
yes.
ask it this way: how can I improve on this meal I am eating? Ooh, okay. I hit the nail on the head for some people there. No
Right.
one's asking this these days. They just wonder, how can I fill my stomach?
I know,
Can I
I know,
fill
I know, I know. But the
my
harm is, we can't just fill our stomachs away. And I think for me, I'm really particular about this. Just as a so it didn't just start right when I started practicing as a physician, but I did see that even in medical school, right? So I'd come across people, they're amputating their legs, they're having strokes, they're really coming down with things that we could have really avoided. So I mean, would see that food is a major risk factor. And that's why I'm like, okay, so let's start to get it right now. We won't get it in one day, right? It's a journey. That's why it's called Eats to Wealth. So there's a destination of wealth that we're all going to attain to. And with every meal, you're seeing it that way. So every meal, you're just asking yourself, maybe unconsciously or subconsciously, okay, am I eating to wealth with this, right? Am I eating as an investment with this? It's okay to have, one of those moments where you sleep. But now with this question, so even in instances where you're not able to get in quotes that ideal meal that you think you want to have, because if we say that at every time tea, right, you'll be able to access or you'll be able to have the whole balanced meal that you'd particularly desire, we may not be realistic with that. But then the question is again, what can you do to make that better? So if it's that you are at a restaurant, right, are there other options that you can opt for, or is there something that you can add to what you're eating just to sort of make it better? So that's where that question comes in. So if you're a rice person, a rice lover, I was speaking with someone recently and she was just telling me how she loves rice. Like, just give her rice and she's okay, and she can have that every single day of the week. So for someone like that, even though we're recommending alternatives, right, the next question now be, okay, so what are you adding to your rice? How are you making your rice richer? Are you adding legumes? Are you adding vegetables? What kind of vegetables do you have access to that you can introduce this meal just to make it richer? Like, I'm not saying don't eat your rice at all, right? So that you don't think I'm making you miss out on the pleasure of life that you enjoy. Or how can you then improve on that meal? So yeah, that's where that question comes from.
Thank you so much, Dr. JP. We really need to reconsider production as a national source of sustenance,
Mhm.
especially distribution and preservation steps of it. I
Mhm.
hope podcasts like this can reach as many ears as possible. Well done. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Uru Okpata, for this comment. I appreciate you. I appreciate each and every one of you who decided to tune in today on the On Air Book Club. And now this is where we have to wrap it up on today's,
Mhm.
function. Thank you so much. But if you would like to be on the On Air Book Club sometime soon, you want us to read your book right here on the podcast, all you have to do is send us an email. That's Dynamite Podcast Network at gmail.com. That's Dynamite Podcast Network at gmail.com. There are loads of amazing conversations we still want to have, and we want to talk about your book soon. Thank you, Dr. JP.
Thank you. I still encourage everyone to, I mean, just read the book in full so that you even have,
Where can
you know.
we get it? Where can we get the book? Where can
Okay,
we
so
get
it can be gotten from Roving Heights, right? You just
Roving Heights?
well, yes, Roving Heights. For those outside the country, it's available on Amazon as well. So just
All
it's
right.
to
So
and then get the
I
copy.
am privileged to have this as an uh, just for purposes of this podcast.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, Eat to Wealth is an amazing guide to Eating Intelligently, written by Dr. Jesupelumi Adenihun. Thank you so much for joining us, Doc.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Layo. It was amazing to be here. Thank you, everyone that has
All right.
joined.
I know you're busy. I know you have to go back to your patients and all that. Thank you so much. But let me let you go. Let me let you
All
go.
right.
All right. So, yeah, you heard it here with the doc. There's so much information inside the pages of books just like this, and it is readily available. On Roving Heights, you can pick up this particular book, Eat to Wealth, written by Dr. Jesupelumi Adenihun. Today, we did what we could to run through some of the major focuses of this book, but there is still so much more in it. And a lot of people are paying an arm and a leg to get books like this, or rather get information like this. It is just a start, a stepping stone, but it is a step in the right direction, I have to say. Thank you so much for all the comments and contributions online as well. Well done, Titilaya, for organizing this podcast. Thanks to Dr. Jesupelumi for this education. Thank you too. Chinweba Emanuela says thank you. Thank you too. Thank you to Bumi as well. Thank you to Uru. Thank you to Fin Folua, Adebayo, Victor Ogechi, Derachi. Who else commented? Shitu. And yeah, quite a few comments came through today. I have to appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Of course, tell a friend to subscribe, like, and follow this particular handle or page. Please hit the notification bell if you are on YouTube right now. Subscribe to this channel so that you will not miss a thing. My name is Titi Oyinsan, and of course, it's been my pleasure. Until we come your way next time, please read and then proceed